our State House studio in Montgomery. I'm Todd Stacy. Welcome to Capitol Journal. It was a busy day in the Alabama legislature as 20 different committees met to consider legislation. We couldn't be in all of them, but we'll hit the high points, starting with the House Ways and Means Education Committee. It took up legislation aimed to allow Birmingham Southern College to access the $30 million rescue loan fund set up last year by the legislature. Lawmakers had concerns, though, and offered amendments to put conditions on those funds. State Representative Cynthia Allman's amendment would require local jurisdictions, in this case the city of Birmingham and Jefferson County, to contribute a portion of their own resources.
Because we know that counties and cities are struggling throughout the state of Alabama, and I'd hate for us to put an unfunded mandate on a particular entity, because many of our over 100-year-old institutions are located in struggling, poverty-stricken areas. So how do we account for that?
Ms. Drummond, I would just say, the point is, if it's important enough, the whole reason I think we have established this program is to try to recognize the importance of institutions to our state and what they contribute. And so if it's important enough for the state to contribute, I think it certainly should be important enough for the local county or municipal government to contribute. Now, of course, they can, there's nothing to prohibit private individuals from donating money to the municipality or the county.
Senate Bill 31 advanced as amended and now goes to the full House. The Senate Finance and Taxation General Fund Committee met today and held a public hearing on legislation that would limit local property tax increases. Senate Bill 110 from Senator David Sessions would impose a cap of 3% for Class 2 properties and 5% for Class 3 properties. Support for the bill came from the Alabama Cattlemen's Association and other groups who said it would help families avoid punishing property tax increases. Yet education groups spoke in opposition, saying the bill unfairly limits needed revenue growth for local school systems.
On our farm in Macon County, we saw an assessment that raised it to almost 10% over last year. This is an unexpected height that's difficult to budget for. Applying a cap on property taxes for Class 2 and 3 properties is a great benefit to all businesses, including those in the cattle business.
Because one thing you do that helps people hurts schools. The cumulative effect from 2023 and 2024 legislation for the fiscal year 2027 ETF would be $822 million worth of cuts. $822 million worth of cuts. I don't know where that money is going to be replaced from.
We are capping the increases. We are trying to steady the growth, because there will come another 2008, people. There will not come another downturn. And what are these systems going to do when they're drunk on all this increase and all of a sudden they're going to start slashing?
No action was taken on that bill, but the committee could act when it reconvenes in April. The House Education Policy Committee met today and discussed a number of controversial bills, including one aimed at expanding Alabama's ban on elementary schools teaching or discussing sexual orientation or identity to all grades through high school. House Bill 130 is sponsored by State Representative Mac Butler, who argues that it's needed to stop indoctrination. Opponents fiercely disagreed, saying the bill amounts to bullying in legislative form.
This is basically an extension of the bill that was passed in 2022, banning discussions of sexual orientation or gender identity and the discussion and instruction on it. And this expands it to K-12.
In that, the second part of that, it says representing sexual orientation or gender identity in a classroom. So I feel like that kind of defines what that would be. I mean, that may vary, but to me that kind of brings the definition of what those things would be and how they may be represented. I don't know, because like I said, we may have 40 different ways that's done. But
I certainly understand that, Representative Gitley, but I'm old enough, and young folks, they have what I thought meant one thing, it means another today. And there again, I'm trying to find out how will you identify that? Is there that's a lot to put on educators.
That bill was approved by the committee and now goes to the full House. The Senate Education Policy Committee also met today to consider legislation aimed at ensuring students entering the first grade are prepared. House Bill 113 from State Representative Peblin Warren would require children to either attend kindergarten or demonstrate the necessary proficiency before entering the first grade. It passed the House again this year overwhelmingly, but has always run into trouble in the Senate. That's because Senator Roger Smitherman has opposed it. The bill was advanced by the committee, but Smitherman vowed to continue his opposition on the Senate floor.
I'm in serious opposition of this bill. Of course, that's known, and I'm just being honest, because y'all my colleagues, and you need to know, my serious opposition will start Thursday against this bill, because until we put things in place, and at least the body had the foresight to put a little something in place with the literacy when we had COVID-19 by delaying that, and yet and still we're going to see the effects now of COVID once that we doing this test, that these kids are not ready even in all this work because we haven't been able to give them the necessary help that they need because of COVID and other reasons that unfortunately happened.
The Senate County and Municipal Government Committee met today for a public hearing on legislation seeking to transform the state's occupational boards and commissions management system. Senate Bill 224 from Senator Chris Elliott would require more than 36 occupational licensing boards to be managed by a new state agency rather than by private contractors. Elliott has argued that the management of these boards has become a for-profit cottage industry that doesn't serve the interests of its workers.
The study group determined that making changes to the organization of these boards should be a priority. We looked at 66 different groups. The study group also reviewed occupational licensing and regulatory boards for analyzing each board's purpose, structure, funding, budget, as well as sunset reports provided by the examiner's office. The review found numerous opportunities to increase efficiency and accountability.
When people that are just the general public go to get their license, that emblem and the people that are representing that particular profession, whatever that might be, right? It doesn't matter if it's electricians, plumbers, pipe fitters, cosmetology, it doesn't matter. They have to get those licenses. And in the end, if those people, those boards, agencies, commissions, aren't representing to the quality of the state of Alabama that this particular committee thinks, then we have an issue there. Now, having said that, it opened my eyes going through and seeing all of the different findings, how the money was being transferred. I think there's a lot of other things that are happening on some of these boards, not all of them at all, and I'm not talking about all of them, but I do think that we have to make some headway with this type of bill to clean this up because it is getting larger than I ever thought it was.
I think that your intentions are honorable here, but I want to make sure that the people that's going to be impacted, because after all, these are the people with their hands on the pulse of all the businesses that's out there that has any kind of licensing requirements. And they're the ones that's going to be taking this information back from what they perceived, and sometimes perception is reality.
It's important to note what the bill is doing is consolidating the administrative functions of these boards, and so many of the folks here are board members, okay? And so this does not change the board, it doesn't change the regulations promulgated by the board, it does not change the makeup, the appointing authority of the board, or anything to do with a board member.
No action was taken on that bill either. It will likely hold until the committee reconvenes in April. Today, presidents from the state's historically black universities and colleges gathered in Montgomery for a series of meetings and discussions about how to best promote the unique value of their institutions to the legislature. They are making sure the governor and all lawmakers are aware of the HBCU story and what they have to offer.
So this is an opportunity, you know, as Alabama, the state of Alabama goes, we have the largest number of HBCUs in the country. So this is an opportunity to bring together all of our HBCU presidents, public, private, 4-year, 2-year institutions, to really talk about what is going on in the state from a legislative standpoint and a policy and legal standpoint, but also to talk about ways that as these institutions, they can collaborate. So HBCU Cares is a consortium of all of the HBCUs in the state, and what we do is work with those HBCUs for them to collaborate on grants, on legislative priorities, on program initiatives for their students.
Today was Buy Alabama's Best Day at the Capitol. Governor Kay Ivey joined the Alabama Department of Agriculture and Industries and the Alabama Grocers Association to promote Alabama-made products as part of the Buy Alabama's Best campaign.
Our grocery industry is integral, whether supporting the health of Alabamians, bringing Alabama families together at mealtime, or helping our communities thrive. With an economic impact surpassing $12 billion with the B dollars, this capital trickles right back down to support our sister industries. It's straightforward, y'all. Supporting Made in Alabama means supporting the Alabama economy and Alabama jobs.
Today we gather to promote the Buy Alabama's Best program. This initiative aims to increase awareness of Alabama food products, increase sales of those products, as well as raise money for designated charities. The grocery industry and supporting local products are vitally important to our economy. With over 500,000 individuals employed in the grocery industry in Alabama, it generates an annual economic impact exceeding $12 billion a year.
That was a very popular tent today, let me tell you. I think next year we should do a tasting here in studio at the show of all those great foods. Coming up after the break, I'll sit down with State Representative Matt Simpson to address criticism of his ethics legislation. After that, State Representative Ginny joins me to discuss her bill providing paid parental leave for state employees. Stay with us.
You can watch past episodes of Capitol Journal online anytime at Alabama Public Television's website, aptv.org. Click on the Online Video tab on the main page. You can also connect with Capitol Journal and link to past episodes on Capitol Journal's Facebook page.
Welcome back to Capitol Journal. Joining me next is State Representative Matt Simpson from Daphne. Representative, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. Always a pleasure to be back.
Well, I ran into you off the floor yesterday, and I said I wanted to have you on because you've got this ethics reform package, this bill, but you've received a lot of criticism from especially AL.com, Kyle Whitmire. You even got an editorial cartoon criticizing your bill. I wanted to kind of give you the opportunity to respond. What do you make of this criticism, and how do you respond?
You know, I expected the criticism. Anytime you touch ethics laws, people are going, it's low-hanging fruit because somebody's going to say, oh, they're trying to change ethics laws, they're all corrupt. It's easy. It's easy for journalists to write that until they actually look at the bill. You know, Kyle Whitmire wrote an article yesterday about the friendship exception and how this bill that I have is so bad because of the friendship exception between lobbyists and legislators. That's the current law as it is right now. This bill has nothing to do with changing that law at all. That is the current law as it sits today.
There's the long-standing relationship kind of, I remember that.
There's already a friendship exception to the law in the ethics law.
So it wouldn't change that at all?
No, it changes the burden of proof to where you'd have to prove that was given for these other reasons. But we've got so many different things through this process of if somebody is using their office for personal gain, that's a crime, and that's prosecuted by the prosecutors. Kyle keeps saying that we've taken ethics laws, we've taken crimes away from ethics laws, and that's not right. We've separated them to where if you violate these laws, if you take a bribe or if you use your office for personal gain, those are being prosecuted by prosecutors now in front of juries. Those are crimes. Those are felonies. The Ethics Commission would be the civil remedies, so the administrative resolutions. So if you do something as far as, hey, this is a fine or this is some type of sanction through that perspective, then that goes through the Ethics Commission. But we're not allowing people to commit violations and not be prosecuted. We're not allowing people to just run wild, which is this theory that AL.com has, and I just don't think they've read the bill, because we've enhanced the crime for punishment. We've enhanced what you can do for use of office for personal gain to make sure that if you do anything to benefit anybody using your office, then that's a personal gain that you can be prosecuted for, and you would go to jail. So it's, the line we clearly drew was, if you can go to prison, this is the avenue you go through under Section 13A, which is the criminal code. But if you are getting sanctioned or fined, then it goes through the Ethics Commission as a civil remedy through that code.
So kind of separating it out, because there is a difference between minor ethics violations and bad stuff, prison time kind of thing. So you're saying that a district attorney or the attorney general should be in charge of prosecuting that, investigating and prosecuting that, but the Ethics Commission does minor, more civil stuff.
Exactly. What we had, and there were some concerns that's happened in the past, is the Ethics Commission would kind of have a quasi-criminal jurisdiction. So they can say, well, we could refer this case to the AG or the DA, and you're looking at 2 to 20 years in prison, or you could pay this civil remedy now and have an administrative resolution now and just pay this fine. So everybody's going to say, well, I'd just rather just pay the fine. I don't want to have to go face prison time or face a jury trial to go through this. So we've taken that didn't sit well with me. That opportunity did not sit well with me. So we've taken that away. We've just committed, the Ethics Commission is just responsible for the civil remedies, and the prosecutors are the one that are responsible for the criminal violations.
Well, I will say and I was around for ethics reform in 2010. It was a big deal. A lot of that got criticized too, by the way. And there's clearly been some, residual fallout from that. People have discovered, you yourself, over the years that it's problematic in certain ways. But one of the things that has been pointed out the most is the ambiguity of the Ethics Commission. Where does their jurisdiction begin? Where does it end? Including the director, their relationship with the Attorney General. So are you comfortable, and especially given feedback and amendments and things like that, that your bill will address that ambiguity and offer some clarity in terms of where the jurisdiction ends and where it begins?
100%. So we have it required to where, again, if it's criminal, it goes to the DAs. If it's civil, it goes to the Ethics Commission. We do have it to where the DAs, if they start an investigation thinking it may be criminal and it's something that it's less than $1,000 and they don't want to handle, they don't think a jury's, they can send it to the Ethics Commission to be handled civilly without them having to go through the criminal process. But that would be a decision that's made by the DAs or the AG, the prosecutor of the case. If the Ethics Commission starts investigating what they think is civil and they find, hey, there's more here, it needs to be criminal, at that point they have to refer it back to the DAs and the AG to go through. Okay. So we also have an amendment that's going to be there to whether the AG or the DA, the AG or DA has to sign off on any administrative resolutions. That's the current law as it is now. We're just going to put that back in the code to make sure that stays the same. So we're really kind of making sure that the lines are very clear for who can do what, where the lines are going. If at some point it gets, as you follow the evidence and follow the investigation and something changes from either criminal to civil or civil to criminal, we've allowed that change to go back. But those decisions are being made by the prosecutors, not by the Ethics Commission.
And this is a lot to try to cover in just the limited amount of time we have. But tell me where we are in the process, because I believe the bill was through committee.
Yes, the bill came out of committee, and we said in committee that hey, still a work in progress to go through. This week, Monday, we had a meeting with the Attorney General and his office and the District Attorneys Association and several DAs. We had a very productive meeting. We've got some amendments that the DAs would request to be put on there. So we're putting that amendment into a floor substitute. That floor substitute should be released, today's Wednesday, it should be released on Thursday. That will be out to the public, that'll be out to all the members, everybody will have a chance to see it. We go home for spring break, so you've got a week and a half before we come back. So everybody has a chance to digest it, look at it, vet it, go over it, and hopefully we have it pretty soon when we come back from spring break.
So you're encouraging everybody to read the legislation?
I want everybody to have any question that they've had. So many people are saying, well, what does this say? What does this say? Don't take my word for it. Read the bill. Don't take Kyle Whitmire's word for it. Read the bill. Don't take these slants that people have that have agendas, and a lot of people have agendas, and I've found that out through this process. This has been an eye-opening process. All I'm asking for people is to just read the bill.
Well, speaking of that, because there's always agendas when it comes to politics, but do you think part of it is, because you're upsetting the apple cart a little bit, upsetting the status quo. Is it sometimes come from, okay, you're moving my cheese, that sort of old saying, like, oh wait, you're messing up my thing, so we're gonna try to politicize it.
The best way I could say it is, the laws are so confusing and convoluted right now that nobody knows what they can do and can't do. And in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. So if the Ethics Commission knows what they can do and they're the only people that know, they're upset if we allow other people to kind of have some involvement through this process. You know, you've got some people, I'm not sure where the Attorney General is going to be. I think he wants the bill to go a little bit further than it does, and I know the Ethics Commission thinks it goes too far. But the way I feel about it is if the Ethics Commission thinks that we went too far and the AG thinks we didn't go far enough, we're probably in a really good sweet spot for the people of Alabama.
Goldilocks.
There you go.
We're out of time, but we'll be following this issue, and thanks again for coming on the show.
Absolutely.
We'll be right back.
You can watch past episodes of Capital Journal online at video.aptv.org. Capital Journal episodes are also available on APTV's free mobile app. You can also connect with Capital Journal and link to past episodes on Capital Journal's Facebook page. And you can listen to past episodes of Capital Journal when you're driving or on the go with Capital Journal podcasts.
Welcome back to Capital Journal. Joining me next is State Representative Ginny Shaver from Leesburg. Representative, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me, Todd.
Absolutely. We're talking about a bill that's made it through committee, probably going to be on the floor tomorrow, has to do with paid parental leave for state employees. Walk me through what this bill does.
Well, you know that we're all about workforce development and trying to get people to work, and the state is a very large employer, and we have trouble recruiting and retaining employees just like any other business. And the governor commissioned a study group chaired by Treasurer Boozer to look at what the state can do to improve recruitment and retaining employees. And this was the study group's #1 recommendation, to offer paid parental leave for state employees to attract younger people to serve at the state.
Well, we were talking earlier, and I was kind of surprised that this wasn't already a thing. I mean, I guess if you are a state employee now, and you have a child or adopt, you can use your accrued leave time, right?
That's right.
But there's not, it's unpaid. So this would be paid parental leave.
Well, you have accrued leave, which is paid, but anything further than that, someone could take the Family Medical Leave Act, which is up to 12 weeks unpaid leave.
Unpaid, yeah.
But no one should have to risk their financial security to provide and take care of their family, when they have or adopt a baby. So that's what this addresses.
So it sounds like it's kind of dual things. It's about recruiting and retaining quality workers, and I could see somebody making a decision if they're starting a family, like, well, maybe I need to get another job that does offer this kind of stuff. So retaining that workforce, but also a pro-family piece of legislation. You've proposed, pro-family legislation in the past.
Absolutely,
so that's
this
is
very, very pro-family.
Yeah, part of your kind of platform. Well, like I said, it's going to be on the floor tomorrow. So that means it must be getting some support. What's been the feedback from your colleagues? Because I mean, this would come at the expense to the state, right?
Well, not exactly. The fiscal note shows that there's a potential loss in savings. So if an employee who had a baby and exhausted their leave and went to family medical leave, and they would be off work without pay. So, what the state would be paying them if they were working would be a potential savings that would be lost. But there's no upfront cost unless that employee is physically necessary to be at a job and someone has to be hired to take their place, or if another employee has to be paid overtime to fill in that spot.
Okay.
So there's not an upfront dollar cost.
Okay, well that probably makes it more attractive. What's been the feedback from your colleagues when you've proposed this bill?
Mostly all positive. I've had a couple of questions, but we've been able to talk through and get those answered. But it just makes a lot of sense. When the federal government offers this, and a lot of private employers now, Alpha, Boeing, Regions, University of Alabama, Protective Life, Maynard Cooper Gale, EBSCO, BBVA, Baker Donaldson, there's a lot of private employers, and every surrounding state in the southern region except for Mississippi, so we don't want to be last. We want to get this passed and let Mississippi be last to do this. But Georgia, Florida, Tennessee, South Carolina, North Carolina, Arkansas, Missouri, the city of Birmingham, all provide paid parental leave.
Okay. Well, we're going to be watching on the floor, and then, assuming passage, watch it in the Senate. But again, it's one of those things. I'm kind of surprised that it's not policy already. So we'll be watching your bill going forward.
Thank you, and thank you for having me on to explain it.
Absolutely. Glad you could be here. We'll be right back.
Watch past episodes of Capitol Journal online anytime at Alabama Public Television's website, aptv.org. Click on the Online Video tab on the main page. You can also connect with Capitol Journal and link to past episodes on Capitol Journal's Facebook page.
That's our show for tonight. Thanks for watching. We'll be back tomorrow night at the same time with more coverage of the legislature right here on Alabama Public Television. For our Capitol Journal team, I'm Todd Stacy. We'll see you next time.